Happy Friday, and thanks so much for joining us on UpNorthLive Unscripted today. After a few days of more spring-like weather, that wintry mix is back in the forecast. Some of us are seeing snow right now, others a bit of rain. But Joe, what is the weekend going to look like?
Yeah, it's going to, well, the one thing for the weekend is going to be a lot colder for everybody. In fact, we've had, I know if you're up way north, you're in the 20s today, but otherwise we had 40s in spots. Okay. Tomorrow, teens.
Ooh, okay.
So, if you forgot what winter was for a couple of days, you get to practice again. There's still some snow out there. We've had some heavy snow in parts of the UP at times today. We'll look at that when that kind of ends. And next week, we warm right back up again, Maya. So, we're getting into that time of the year here. And we'll talk more about that in a few minutes.
So if you don't like the cold weather this weekend, you have something to look forward to.
Right,
Another
yes.
warm up. All right, thank you so much, Joe. Let's start off with one of our top local stories today. So one of Northern Michigan's newest recreational areas, the Patriot Park Veterans Memorial in Kalkaska County, is completely covered in snow right now. So work on the actual parcel is on pause for the winter, but there is work being done more than 100 miles away and by some volunteers that you may not expect. Here's Mark Gillette with that story.
It's snowballed so fast. It's just, it's really exciting.
Looking back over the past several months here at the Patriot Park Veterans Memorial, Dave Halachukis is kind of blown away about how much has been done and how much steam the project has built up.
It's out of this world, the momentum.
Last fall, Dave shared with us the plans to transform this 80 acres of land into a community resource, with, of course, a tribute to those who have served, as well as a disc golf course, trails, and a community center.
It's going to be a huge benefit for our little community.
But it's more than just that little community that's getting invested and putting in the work.
In my trail building class, every semester we teach the class, we try to find 4 or 5 communities around Michigan that are interested in building trails.
MSU instructor Bob Wilson knows a lot about building trails, so much so he literally wrote the book on it, and now passes along that knowledge to his students on campus in East Lansing.
I have taught at Michigan State for about 25, 26 years now, and I have gone from the idea of using tests and exams to assess performance. Now all my classes are built on some real-world experience.
That's how Dave, who needed some help designing trails for the park up here, and Bob, who has students looking for some real-world experience designing and building trails, ended up in our conference room this morning.
My students are so enthusiastic to do this. They would much rather be out in that environment than stuck in a classroom taking an exam.
Over the course of the semester, Bob's MSU students will learn from and listen to the community and the topography to learn what designs will work best out here for a trail system.
We get the students out into a community, into a real world, and they look at the surroundings. They work with community leaders and say, what can I do to make that community better with this trail we're designing?
The students get the experience, and Dave gets the right trails for the land.
We want to build it correctly from the start. We do not want to go back and, oh my gosh, we should have done that. So we want to do as much planning, pre-planning that we possibly can so that we avoid as many mistakes as we possibly can.
Halfway through the semester, and the students are making progress. When the snow melts, the on-site work will get going. In the meantime, Dave and the others behind the park keep planning and preparing for what this blank canvas could become.
We just have a tremendous list of things to do, and we're so excited about this project.
That was Mark Gillette reporting, and along with the trails, the park is also in the process of designing a disc golf course, which will be installed here shortly. Okay, earlier in the week, I talked with our Congressman, John Molinar. He represents Michigan's 2nd Congressional District. And yesterday, during Unscripted, we showed you a little glimpse into our conversation. But today, we have the whole conversation to share with you. Welcome to our Connect to Congress. Congressman John Molinar is joining us today from Washington, D.C. And Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. I know it's been a busy week in Washington. And on Tuesday night, the House passed the so-called Big Beautiful Budget Bill. That includes $4.5 trillion in tax breaks and $2 trillion in spending cuts, including potential cuts to programs like Medicaid. Now, Congressman, you voted in favor of this resolution and called it a major win for Michigan residents. How do you think it will help Michiganders?
Well, I think it's important that we continue President Trump's tax cuts because that's what's helping grow our economy and jobs in Michigan. When you think of some of the areas where we're cutting spending, we're really looking at encouraging work and the value of work. So when it comes to different things like Medicaid, having a work requirement actually grows our economy. It also saves federal taxpayer dollars. And right now, President Trump campaigned on reducing the federal bureaucracy, making sure that we're right-sizing our federal government so that it serves the people and not the other way around. And this was a first step in that process.
And this week marks 3 years since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. On Tuesday, the U.S. and Ukraine reached an agreement on a framework for a broad economic deal. It would reportedly give the U.S. access to rare earth minerals in Ukraine, while Ukrainian officials hope the agreement will ensure continued military support from the U.S. So what are your thoughts on this deal? And does it have any impact on efforts to actually end the war in Ukraine?
I think President Trump has been very clear that he would like to see an end to the hostilities, end of the war in Ukraine. And I believe that this economic partnership will help not only fortify Ukraine and their future, but also be a benefit to the United States because we rely on these critical minerals often and have to rely on China or Russia or other adversarial countries. So to me, it looks like a win-win. I know President Zelensky will be in Washington this week to talk further about it and hopefully come to a win-win agreement.
And also this week, the U.S. joined Russia to vote against a UN General Assembly resolution condemning Russia's war against Ukraine. What was your reaction to this vote?
Well, I think the timing of the vote when President Trump is trying to be a peacemaker would have simply inflamed the situation. And so, in my view, we've known all along Russia is the aggressor, and we want to make sure they do not win this war, but we want to have a fair and just negotiated peace. And President Trump's trying to bring both sides together to make that happen because, you know, we're looking at the hundreds of thousands of lost lives, and this war needs to end.
And one of the biggest topics since President Trump took office is his strategy to expand tariffs. How do you assess the short and long-term impacts of President Trump's trade tariffs on Michigan businesses and consumers? And do you believe that the strategy will successfully achieve its goal of raising revenue and bringing trade into balance?
President Trump's been talking about reciprocity in our trade policy, and to me, that makes a lot of sense. If countries are not tariffing or creating unfair trade barriers with us, we will be reciprocal. But if they are creating burdens for our job providers to export to those countries, there ought to be reciprocity. China, in my view, is one of the worst violators. And so this 10% tariff on China, to me, is a floor. We ought to be continuing to expose the unfair trade practices of China. When you look at what he was able to agree to with Mexico, where they have 10,000 more soldiers on the border protecting our southern border, to me, that was a win-win scenario.
And as part of President Trump's plan to scale back federal spending and shrink the federal workforce, National Park Service employees are being impacted. Now, Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore, for example, it's not located in the district that you serve, but people from all over the state and the country visit the lakeshore every year. And some are worried about how this could impact operations there. Are there steps being taken to make sure our national lakeshores and parks will continue to be properly managed, even with job losses and a hiring freeze?
I think every agency in the federal government is going to have to look at ways they can prioritize and make sure they have people able to do the most important priorities of the federal government. And to me, that is where we are right now, where we're looking at a bureaucracy that's bloated, and we need to find ways to right-size our federal government. Our lakeshore, our Sleeping Bear Dunes are national treasures, and we want to make sure they're protected. But we've got to do it within a budget, and that's where we need to set the right priorities. And to me, that would be a very big priority. So we'll continue to work with the administration on this, and Congress is going to have an important say in this process. But you can count on me advocating for the Sleeping Bear Dunes.
And Congressman, after the University of Michigan ended its partnership with a Chinese university last month, you're now calling on other universities, including Eastern Michigan University, Oakland University, and the University of Detroit Mercy, to do the same. Can you explain your reason behind this stance, and what issues do you believe these partnerships could pose?
Absolutely. You know, we did a report that showed thousands of papers that were done with Chinese and U.S. professors jointly working together through these joint institutes. And what we learned is these papers were actually funded with Department of Defense grants. And China uses this technology and this know-how to beef up their military apparatus, which could end up being used against the men and women in our armed forces. So we believe it's the right thing not to embolden our adversary, but to discontinue these partnerships, which are a threat to our national security, as well as losing important technologies that can benefit us militarily as well as economically, because China doesn't have the same respect for intellectual property rights and our own national interests. So I was really pleased that University of Michigan has followed Georgia Tech as well as Cal Berkeley in discontinuing these joint programs with Chinese universities. And we hope that more Michigan universities will be continuing that process. Already, Oakland University has said they will. We want to see Eastern Michigan as well as Detroit Mercy follow suit as well.
And a little closer to home in Mecosta County, plans to bring an electric vehicle battery plant have caused a lot of controversy. Recently, the Mecosta County Board of Commissioners voted to rescind a resolution supporting Goshen's proposed electric vehicle battery plant in Green Charter Township. Can you give us an update from your end on where this plan stands and if you think it will move forward?
Well, I have listened to the voice of the residents, both in Green Township and Mecosta County, and their elected officials who have said they do not want this plant in Mecosta County. And unfortunately, there's been funding from the state of Michigan, taxpayer dollars going to fund this entity that is affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party. My goal on the federal level is to make sure that they are not able to access Inflation Reduction Act dollars to the tune of billions. That would be taxpayer dollars from people in Michigan and throughout the country funding a battery plant that directly benefits the Chinese Communist Party and their objectives. So we're going to continue to work on that. In my view, we shouldn't be funding our adversaries. And this plant is one example of that. My hope is that they will listen to the residents of Mecosta County and not continue this project.
Congress Molnar, thanks so much for taking some time to talk with us today on this edition of Connect to Congress. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
All right, and before we take our first commercial break, I am joined here by a very special guest, my good friend, Oscar. Wow, it kind of looks like it's glowing. It is literally glowing. It looks cool with this background. So this weekend is, of course, the Oscars here on ABC. So we want to know what you think the Best Picture award should go to, which film you think. So there are 10 films nominated for Best Picture. Scan the QR code on your screen right now. That will take you to our website where you can vote. I'll let you know that one film is kind of running away with a lot of the results at this point on our end. And again, be sure to tune in to the Oscars this Sunday right here on ABC. It starts at 7 o'clock. You can see who will be bringing home one of these guys. All right, let's take a quick commercial break, but Joel will have much more on your weekend forecast coming up next.
I'm Jada Johnson from Big Boys TV, and the Fish and Game Report is sponsored by Johnson's Propane.
Some wintry weather is back in the forecast for this weekend. For more on that, let's turn things over to our chief meteorologist, Joe Charlevoix. Joe, you mentioned it's going to be cold this weekend. How cold could it get?
Well, tomorrow I think we're going to get into the teens. In some areas tonight could get down below 0.
Oof, okay.
And it was weird because we had rain in some spots today as well. So kind of an interesting storm system crossing through here, but it's going to cool down, and then we'll see it warm up again next week. A lot of different colors on the map there, Maya. We got purple and pink and brown, and that's because we have a number of different watches and warnings. So here's a look at our winter storm warning for parts of Luce County, Chippewa, Mackinac counties until tomorrow morning. 2 to 4 inches of snow is expected here with very gusty winds too. So there will be low visibility and some icy roads. In purple, all these areas, that's where we have from western Mackinac County south all the way down toward Muskegon almost, in the northern tip of the Mitt. We're looking at a winter weather advisory in the Grand Traverse region as well. 1 to 3 inches of snow, 35 to 50 mile per hour winds for a brief time tonight. So low visibility and icy roads there. And then separate from all that, we have a wind advisory until late tonight because of those gusty winds out of the north turning northwesterly tonight. Here's a look at what's happened through the day today. Now, in the UP, we've had mainly just snow. It's been cold enough there. There's the snow that crossed through this morning. The backside of the system is now crossing through. And in lower Michigan, we see the green. It's been warm enough for mainly rain, although we're seeing a quick changeover now. There's a current look at things to snow. So snow in the UP. Traverse City has switched over to snow. We're looking at a rain-snow mix in Cadillac. And so we're going to see a quick drop in temperature. And I want to point that out because this is a scenario tonight. We have 22 at Sault Ste. Marie. We're in the 30s and 40s still. But in a matter of a couple hours, we're going to drop a lot. So the rain that we've had in parts of northern Michigan, I know up north you've had snow, but the rain, that is going to quickly turn into ice on the roadways. See how quickly, this is 9 o'clock, we're already in the teens and 20s. So kind of a flash freeze on the roadways tonight. There's where we end up by morning. Look at that. Pretty chilly. As far as the actual weather is concerned, we're looking at snow tonight, gusty winds, and then tomorrow, that's lake effect snow. The majority of that is going to be along and west of I-75 tomorrow afternoon through tomorrow night. And then even into Sunday, still a couple lingering snow showers, although Sunday doesn't look to be too big of a deal. As far as accumulation, we'll run this out through tomorrow night, 2 to 3, 1 to 2 inches of snowfall. And then we'll see some additional as we head into Sunday afternoon. The other story is that wind. So the wind is starting to pick up now along the lakeshore. See the wind right there. That's around 10:30. Dropping temperatures, some snow. So things are actually going to deteriorate tonight for much of the area, weather-wise. And then tomorrow, the wind will shift more northwesterly and then start to come down tomorrow evening. So here's what we're looking at for the weekend, kind of in a nutshell. 9 to 21 tomorrow, much colder, scattered lake effect snow and northwest wind gusting to 30. A little warmer Sunday, 20s, a few lingering snow showers, a partly to mostly cloudy sky for the second half of the weekend. And the cold weather does not last long. Look at Monday, 30s to around 40 already early next week. And then a system's going to roll in from the Great Plains. That will bring in the chance maybe for some heavier snow north or a rain-snow mix or just rain. A lot to iron out there, but we'll keep an eye on that over the next couple of days.
All right. Thanks so much, Joe. Let's take a quick commercial break, but we will check in with sports director Harrison Beebe in just a couple of minutes. Another busy night in sports. So he'll have a preview of all the games that he's covering tonight. Straight ahead. Boys basketball district finals getting underway tonight and tomorrow, and sports director Harrison Beebe has a preview of all the matchups.
Hey, Maya. Yeah, a very busy Friday we have coming up. District championships getting handed out all across the state of Michigan as boys look to advance to the regional rounds or maybe unfortunately have their seasons come to a close. We know for at least one game, though, we're going to have to wait an extra day. Traverse City West was supposed to go up to Marquette tonight, but due to bad weather in the UP, the Marquette team has decided to postpone that game to tomorrow at 5 p.m. tip-off for TC West and Marquette in Division I. But we know of a lot of other games we're heading to tonight. Some doozies, especially in our region. Cadillac and Mount Pleasant, that's also a Division I district, will be in attendance for. In Division III, Glen Lake goes up against Elk Rapids. I saw those two meet early in the year. Will be interesting to see the rematch if the Elks can hand the Lakers an upset in their building for the district. To Division IV, where we have a smorgasbord of games coming up tonight. The intriguing one we talked about on the show last night was this Cinderella Leland team has had two huge upsets on the way to the district final at the host site in Sutton's Bay. They knocked off Frankfurt and Lake Leelanau St. Mary to get here, but Traverse City Christian appears to be a team of destiny. The Sabres have never won a district championship before, and they've been gunning for that goal all year round, and tonight is the night they could finally do it. But will Leland play spoiler once again? That's why we love sports, right? Plus, Bel Air is going to be in that same regional. That is if they can get by Ellsworth in their district final tonight in the Eagles' home building. Up the road from there at Boyne Falls, it's Burt Lake NMC taking on Harbor Light Christian. The Swordsmen look pretty impressive this year. And another doozy of a Division IV district final tonight. Onekama meets up with Marion over at a neutral site in Brethren. I think that one could be a very exciting matchup as well. We're going to have highlights of all those games. We're going to recap all the scores. Crazy busy night for high school hoops as we put a bow on hometown highlights for boys basketball. We're going to have one more hometown highlights next week for girls districts, so be sure to join us then. But tonight will be a busy one for boys hoops for sure. That'll do it for me in Unscripted Sports. Back to you, Maya.
Thank you, Harrison, and be sure to tune in tonight at 11 for highlights of all those matchups that Harrison talked about that are happening tonight. All right, let's take one last commercial break, but coming up next, we will check back in with our question of the day and give you some updated results to that. Stay with us.
Salon services are furnished by Epiphany Advanced Academy in East Acme.
The 97th Academy Awards happening this Sunday at 7 o'clock right here on ABC. So we want to know, which film do you think should win Best picture. Right now, Wicked is running away with 35% of the vote, followed by A Complete Unknown, and then Dune Part 2. Those are the top 3. You can see all the results on your screen right now, and you can head to our website, UpNorthLive.com, to vote. But that'll do it for Unscripted on this Friday evening. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great weekend, everyone.